Hello and welcome to my channel. My name is Psychic Medium Roberto and thank you for tuning in today. Alright, so today I'm going to look at the Lucian Munguia case. Lucian was 4 years old at the time of his disappearance, and he disappeared on the September the 10th, 2022. So let's look at Lucian. Who is Lucian? So let's have a look at Lucian, born on the October the 5th, 2017. Now, having done preliminary research and some research, I understand that he was autistic as well as had problems speaking out. And I can actually see that in him, he would encounter quite a bit of difficulties through his life. But ultimately, had he been older, he would have found a way as a young adult or young teenager and adult, a way in which to communicate and travel through life. But obviously, being a young kid, he has obviously encountered a situation where he's gone missing on September the 10th. Now, the backstory is his father, Juan, was at the park with the kids, and while he was changing diapers with the younger kid, that Lucian must have wandered off and disappeared, or alternatively was taken from the park. It's quite interesting that his date of birth and the day he disappeared is in many ways a reflection or a complete circle of his life. Now, for example, the outcome of his date of birth as well as the day he disappeared is a 7, which is all about being free or trapped or restricted. And again, I've just picked up I've been getting this image of underwater, murky, lodged between objects underwater, and I do see him there. It looks like his hand is caught in something or his arm is caught in something. However, I must say, when we look at this situation and you look at the geography of the park, the distance to the stream and the waters is a fair distance away, and in my opinion would take more than a minute to reach that water edge, as well as there would have been a splash or a noise. So I'm not completely convinced that it was by accident or that he walked into the water, and I must say the being pushed into the water is quite a strong sensation, energy that I'm picking up. However, I do see him lodged underwater. I keep seeing this water image. And you know the picture with him with his blue dummy, I keep seeing like there's this blue, I'm not saying the dummy's underwater, but it's a reference point for me to say that he's under the water. I do feel that he is trapped and he's not moving along the water. I do feel he is trapped. I won't say very far from where that park is, within that region. But let's just go into that sensation. I see an adult male pushing a young boy in the water. So let's tap into that and let's see if I can pick up anything additional to that. So if I look at the parents in this case, Juan and Sandra, now, and the combination of the two, I would say that there's actually quite a fair amount of disconnect between Lucian and his parents. Now, remember in the Summer Wells case, I mentioned that the kids imitate, or not imitate, but reflect the parents. And what I'm seeing here with Juan and Sandra, that there is a slight connect with Sandra, and with the surname there's the connection, but I'm not picking up a connection with the name Juan or Sandra, and the outcome of both parents is very different to what Lucian is. So there's already let's say I won't say a disconnect, but they won't be in sync with each other. That is the best way of saying it. I would say that Lucian and his parents weren't necessarily in connection. They would, over time there would be connection points, but in the main, I would say there aren't direct connections to the three of them. Okay, and I'm actually seeing that same situation with Juan and Sandra, that there'll be moments where they connect in life, but ultimately I would say this couple is also out of sync with each other, and that could cause additional strain on the family, or strain more so on their relationship, as well as that would then reflect on the kids. Now, initially when I saw this, it's easy to surmise, and that's not a psychic thing, surmise that, yeah, we have a young couple with an autistic kid. They can't cope with the extra attention that is required to look after Lucian. I would say that would have caused a heavy burden on them, but I would say that would have impacted their relationship significantly, and would be a constant, not an irritation, but a constant concern for these guys, for this young couple, right? Now you see this, the day of his disappearance, in my opinion, and psychically is connected to Sandra. This would have impacted her more, and because of her name. But I would also say it could be the opposite, that Sandra could have come up with an idea or a plan, and Juan could have carried it out. So let's just test that theory. Or I'm just picking up in her name and the day that he disappeared, there's the definite connection to Sandra, and I know she wasn't present, but she could have come up with the idea, and Juan would have carried it out. And I've been shown that pushing sensation again. On my second meditation on this case, it feels like, and I know for parents or for anyone to really comprehend this, you know, the day he was born and the day he died, it almost feels like a completion of a life cycle, is what I'm picking up. A completion of a life cycle. Now we're still trying to determine whether there was foul play involved here, and I know the police say they don't see any foul play, but you know, that could just be said up front just to keep the parents calm, or focus on finding Lucian before they actually move, because I mean, obviously the authorities can lay charges at any time. He was only meant to get to that age 4.5. I mean, he would have turned 5 just shortly after that, a month later. And I know there was a vigil held there at the park. And I just I'm feeling like he didn't run to that water. I'm feeling like he did not run to that water. And I believe it feels like, and looking at the date of birth and his names, there was some kind of disconnect. There was definitely a disconnect on that day, and that disconnect is linked to family, with the outcome of being freed of this burden. And of course, all these readings are alleged, but you know, when I looked at the parents during the second meditation, you know, I'm almost afraid to say it, but it doesn't look good. It does not look good between the two parents. So I was just reminded of a previous case, and I'll have to insert here. Brian Laurie and his girlfriend that he murdered, that he used the word mercy killing, like she was injured and he killed her with mercy so she didn't have to suffer. I'm picking up that same vibe here, that what happened to Lucian, for one, that they didn't want him to go through what he would go through as an adult, but I think more so free of burden with this child. You know, the disconnect on that day with the I'm definitely seeing a disconnect there, with a family disconnect. The day was linked directly to his mother Sandra, but we know she wasn't there. And then if I look at Juan, the father, I mean, if I look at his name, and you know, 11-2, You want to, people with power numbers, like a power number 11, is all about bringing people together for the betterment of good, society. It could be business, bringing two business partners together to form a deal, or linking two people together. And of course, the opposite of all this can be a very corrupt and deceptive and criminal elements behind that number as well, if the person chooses to go the other way. And I'm picking that up in Juan. And again, these are all alleged, but I'm definitely picking up with Juan. There is propensity to do greater good or criminal activity. Sandra might have had the idea and Juan carries it out. Now, if I look at the two parents, that would have been, if that is the case, if the two parents came up with a plan, that would have taken Juan by surprise in this way. But it would have taken quite a bit of convincing for him to do that. There could have been an incident prior to this day, or just because it's ongoing because of the nature of his of Lucian's condition, and that this could have just built up, and then a plan was hatched. And it's plausible that a father could be changing a nappy in less than a minute, while his kid would have run around the park and gone into the water. Surely the kids would have been told when they got to that park, and surely they would have been there more than just the day that he disappeared, that stay away from the water, don't run to the water. If the kids are watching the parents, and the parents are watching the kid will go to the parent and not necessarily wander way off in the distance and fall in the river or the dam. However, I do believe he is underwater. I keep seeing that image underwater. Look, let's just say, okay, so let's take it from the perspective that this could have been a simple accident and disconnect from life and passed away underwater. But I am picking up a lot of dodginess around the two parents, unfortunately. And I've got this little visual cue for certain things, and I keep getting the same visual cue that there was definitely criminality involved here. And I'm definitely seeing, and I saw again last night in the second meditation, I'm seeing at least both parents in court over this. I'm seeing both parents in court over this. And I'm particularly seeing the mother in court over this as well, and the father. So they might have a separate trial depending if someone owns up to the situation or owns up to as to what actually transpired. But I'm definitely seeing both parents in court about this case, and not as as eyewitnesses or anything like that, but actually being prosecuted or accused of this heinous crime. And once again, we have this young kid who, lovely face, some of the video I've seen, very funny, enjoys laughing, he's not a depressed kid at all. I don't believe he walked into that water or ran into the water or fell in the water. I don't believe that at all. He was definitely pushed into the water. Thank you for watching. Please leave your comments and suggestions below. I would love to hear from you, and I will see you in the next one. Stay safe and stay alert.